Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, severe regional and global damage. That's the warning from none other than the International Monetary Fund about the impact of Britain withdrawing from the EU. The IMF has downgraded its forecast for British growth and warns of an extended period of uncertainty and market volatility if the UK votes to leave. George Osborne says it's evidence of the risks of Brexit. But Leave campaigners have accused the Chancellor of persuading the IMF to talk Britain down, to scare voters into line. Our business correspondent Helia Ebrahimi reports.
A fragile world with a sobering list of potential threats. Today's assessment by the International Monetary Fund was its bleakest since 2009's recession. The strains caused by the migrant crisis, fear of terrorism and a return of financial turmoil. And now also on the list,
Good morning, how are you doing? Very brief.
The UK's June referendum vote, fingered by the IMF as a trigger for further destabilisation, not just here, but across the globe. This pronouncement from the IMF will have Brexiters fuming. They'll say this is another example of Project Fear, one no doubt that Number 10 will be happy about. But whatever your political leanings, what the fund is saying is severe. Their claim is not just that Brexit would have an impact on trade and growth here in the UK, but that Brexit could do severe global damage by disrupting existing trading relationships. The IMF blamed uncertainty over the referendum for its decision to cut UK growth this year from 2.2% to just 1.9%. That's more pessimistic than even the OBR's gloomy forecast at the budget.
Well, today we have a stark warning from the IMF. For the first time, they're saying that the threat of Britain leaving the EU is having an impact on our economy, and they've cut our growth forecast as a result. They say if we were actually to leave the EU, there would be a short-term impact on stability and a long-term cost for the economy. So this is the clearest independent warning of the taste of things to come if we leave the EU.
The IMF also downgraded the euro area, where growth was cut from 1.7% to 1.5%. Japan, which was given the biggest rewrite, is now expected to hardly grow at all. The fund also sees Russia's downturn getting worse, contracting by 1.8% rather than just 1%, while Brazil's severe recession only gets deeper. The big warning from the IMF is that the whole world has been backed into a low-growth trap. This is what they mean when they talk about secular stagnation. And what they've unleashed today is a call to arms. While the IMF clearly is worried central bankers have run out of big bazooka-type policies, what they want is political leaders to start drawing up plans to prepare for the worst.
Interest rates have probably done as much as they can do. The thing that can still be used is public investment in infrastructure, and that's really where the IMF has been turning its attention to what more can be done by governments to support infrastructure spending, which will help economies in the long term and boost demand in the short term.
The question now is one of time. The IMF say policymakers are running out of it, as the chances of sustained economic growth are looking ever more distant.
So what impact will that warning from the IMF have on the referendum campaign? Our political editor, Gary Gibbon, is in Westminster. Gary, what's the impact of this from the IMF?
Well, the Remain camp believe that pounding the drum of economic gloom and risk is going to reach undecided voters. They're convinced of that. If you talk to the Leave campaign, they say that you can't trust what the IMF are saying. They're chummy with George Osborne, chummy with the EU. They don't have a great forecasting track record. But the Remain camp feel as long as the agenda, the debate is on the economy and on jobs, they're much more comfortable than when it's on immigration or security.
Can we expect more endorsements like this?
Oh, a lot more. Both camps feel that what the voters like particularly are third-party endorsements, people who come from outside politics. And so you're going to hear from this body probably all over again and a number of others. You're going to hear third-party endorsements from other countries. President Obama coming over next week, probably EU leaders wading in. And one of the key things, though, is that you're going to carry on hearing from the politicians. They're not going to disappear. And it's Labour that are really at the forefront of the next few days. The drift down in the Remain vote, a lot of people think, is because Labour identifiers haven't been that thrilled with what they've seen of the Remain campaign so far. A Tory Prime Minister taking potshots at fellow Tories. So Jeremy Corbyn piles in on Thursday, and you had David Miliband today.
Gary Gibbon at Westminster.